Hello everybody, we're going to attempt this again, because I am getting fed up with the interruptions. We're going to skip the whole intro that I did for the past 2 times, other than a bunch of stuff has happened, so it's been a while since I recorded, and I'm sorry. And then we're also going to add in, tomorrow is my sister's birthday, but you will see this on the day of her birthday, because it's March 22nd, so I'm recording this, it's tomorrow. You will see this on her birthday, so, you know, I don't care if you put anything in chat box, comments, whatever the fuck it's called. I'm tired already, which is absolutely ridiculous, and I'm already making this go on for way too long. Today we are reading His Reasons. It's a Todoroki X-Reader fanfic by AshleyH713. We are going to try to get through chapters 10 and 11, and then I'm going to try and record another video, which probably won't happen because it's going to end up being an hour long, it's going to be 9 o'clock, and I want to get some sleep. Yeah, let's begin. Season 2, Chapter 10. The day after the sports festival. The results were all over the news. The top 3 overall challengers ended up being Amari in 3rd place, Todoroki in 2nd, with Katsuki winning the entire festival. Usually that would have made the boy ecstatic, but ever since their fight, Bakugo was in the worst mood ever. He hadn't even tried to speak to her since everything, and Amari felt the sense of loneliness creep into her stomach again. They were doing so well. She didn't want to go back to how they used to be. Sighing heavily, she watched him stomp down the steps the next morning, grabbing a piece of toast, still not uttering a word to her. Amari could hear her father watching the news in the background, recapping the festival in vivid detail loudly. Enough about the 3rd years. This time, the ones to look out for were the first-year students of Class 1A, which blew the competition away and claimed the top 3 spots. That class is definitely something to look out for. Swirling the spoon in her cereal, she listened to the announcer's words silently. And what may have shocked everyone the most was the unexpected confession by the 3rd-place ranked student, Bakugo Omari, of Class 1A. Talk about bold. At his words, she dropped her spoon in embarrassment, already racing to the TV to stop replaying the terrible moment in her mind. Turn it off. Quickly grabbing the remote in her hand, she turned it off quickly before sighing in frustration. That bastard Shinso was making her the laughingstock of the entire country. Her father just looked confused when Amari heard her mother enter the room, looking rather shocked. Wait, Amari, do you have a boyfriend? Realizing she must have heard the TV, the girl put her hands out quickly, calling Todoroki. Her boyfriend didn't seem right for them right now. Well, just then Bakugo appeared from nowhere, shouting back for her. No, she doesn't. Their mother frowned at his answer, slapping him across the head once. Shut up, Katsuki, I wasn't talking to you. Don't answer for your sister. She then flipped her personality around like she usually did with Amari. Now, Amari, sweetie, do you? Glancing towards her brother's angry expression, she replied, Well, I wouldn't really call us that just yet. But of course, their mother took that as a yes and smiled proudly. Ah, that's wonderful, dear. You should invite him to dinner tonight. I would love to meet this boy. At her words, Amari gasped, already putting her hands out in a hard rejection. There was no way she would subject Todoroki to their crazy home life. Oh, no. That's okay. I'm sure he's really busy. Anyways, with school and training and everything. Also, it's so sudden, I don't want to seem rude or anything like that. Or, seem too pushy or anything. Putting her hand up to stop her daughter's rambling, Amari's mother answered. Oh, it would be no trouble at all. We'd all love to have him over. Bakugo didn't seem thrilled by the idea, though, slamming his hand on the table in front of him. Oh no, I don't want that icy hot bastard anywhere near my house. I already see him enough as it is. Frowning at his response, Amari realized that maybe this wasn't a good idea after all. Bakugo already had a problem with him. The whole thing would probably just be awkward. Okay. It's okay, Mom. Thanks for the offer, though. I think it would be better if he didn't. Their mother paused for a moment before narrowing her eyes and speaking hard. It was the first time she had ever spoke to her daughter in that tone. The air suddenly felt dramatic and different. Amari and Bakugo, you will invite this boy tonight for dinner. Widening her eyes in slight fear, Amari realized she was using her full name for the first time in years. She must have been really serious about this. There was no way to disobey her now. Okay. Then, just as it arrived, their mother snapped back to life, smiling like a crazy person. "Perfect! I'll go shopping while you're at school then. Now, hurry on. You two are going to be late." She then happily threw her arms out, pushing her two children out of the house and slamming the door behind them before they could process what was happening. Amari thought what she had just agreed to and groaned. She kind of hoped that Todoroki would reject her offer, or else things were going to get messy. Turning to her brother, she already saw him leaving without her. Internally, she wanted to talk to him, but when she took a step forward, he frowned. "Don't even think about following me, brat. I see enough of you already." That caused her to stop, watching him leave completely. It seemed they were really back to step one. That very thought made her wither slightly. Shoving her hands in her pockets, Amari walked towards the school alone. She silently wished for Todoroki's presence, although they stopped going to school together before the sports festival. Now, it was usually just her. She reached the street crossing and paused. Seeing the walk sign flashing red, Amari sighed heavily and hoped it wouldn't take very long when a voice next to her spoke up. "Hey, you're that girl from the sports festival, right?" Blinking in surprise, Amari turned to find an older man staring at her. She replied quietly, hoping that the rest of the people around her wouldn't hear the conversation. "Oh, yeah, that's me." Although her plan didn't work well, as soon everyone around her started whispering, pointing in her direction. "Hey, look, it's Confession Girl." Her eyes widened at the term, glancing towards the red sign, and wished for it to go by faster. She really should have changed her name. "Please don't call me that." But the people around her weren't listening, only continuing loudly. "Good luck, Confession Girl. I hope he answers your feelings." Feeling the heat of embarrassment in her cheeks, Amari's face flushed. Was this how it was going to be now? She really hoped not. Thanks." The comments and voices kept coming after that, crowding the area around her all at once. Why wasn't that light turning green? Just then, the light finally changed and Amari found herself sprinting across the road, trying to get away from these crazy people as quickly as possible. She didn't know if her heart could take this every day. Reaching the other side, she heaved out a breath and the people next to her gasped and whispered in excitement. "Oh my God, that's her, right? The Confession Girl!" The name pounded against her skull, and all she wanted to do was get out of there, to find any place without people, but she couldn't find anywhere, just all eyes on her. Taking a step away, she felt someone grab her arm, and Amari was pissed, snapping around to yell at the ranger. "Seriously, what is your problem? Don't touch me!" But she ended up freezing when Amari realized who it actually was. She just yelled at Todoroki. Pulling his hand away, he took a step back, not knowing what was happening. He just offended her somehow. "Sorry." Widening her eyes, Amari's tone changed immediately, putting her hands out in desperation. Why did it have to be him? "Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell at you. I thought you were someone else." Her words didn't put him at ease, though, now turning around to see who she was talking about. "Are you okay? You seem upset." Sighing heavily, Amari replied, "It's nothing. It's just that stupid sports festival. Seems like my outburst is public knowledge, and now I just want to crawl into a hole and die." She noticed his confusion and changed the subject quickly. "But never mind that. What are you doing here? I thought you trained every morning now." Todoroki paused for a moment before letting his eyes fall, recalling the mistake he had made while being focused on beating his father. "I already told you I'm not going to leave you alone again, but I understand if you don't want to walk together anymore." Mari stood silent for a moment. Did that mean they could go back to walking together? She didn't know why, but his words made her so happy. Nodding her head enthusiastically, she jumped up to him in her usual spazzy nature. "No, I do. I really want to. I've never wanted anything more." Todoroki took in her excitement and couldn't help but smile under his breath. "You don't have to go that far." Realizing her mistake, Amari's eyes fell. Sorry, I'm just really happy." He shook his head in reply, already used to her excitement and over-the-top attitude. "No, it's fine. I'm glad you're happy." Amari smiled at this when a person next to her gasped, calling out to her loudly. "Hey, it's Confession Girl, and the boy she called out to. Good luck, Confession Girl. We're rooting for you." She groaned at the words, putting a hand to her face in embarrassment. Seriously, when will they stop? Todoroki noticed her uncomfortable stance, and before she could process it, he had already taken her hand, dragging her away from the crowds. "Come on, let's go." Amari gasped at contact, feeling his warmth pour into hers. The crowds of people noticed the action as well, now screaming with excitement. "Woohoo! Way to go, Confession Girl!" God, that name's horrible. But this time, Amari couldn't hear them over the sound of her own heartbeat. They were just holding hands. She shouldn't have been this embarrassed. They walked side by side with each other, now noticing that Todoroki hadn't let go of her hand. They kind of looked like a couple like this. Hey, Todoroki, I don't think they can see us anymore. You can let go now. Looking straight ahead, the boy only tightened his hold, answering back, What if I don't want it? Her eyes widened at that, filling her skin, turning even more pink by the second. Truthfully, she didn't want to let go either. Oh, then I guess you don't have to. His heart hammered in his chest at her response, now feeling slightly nervous himself. This was the first time he had ever wanted to get close to someone. It was different. An awkward silence appeared between the two of them before Amari spoke, low and quiet. So, does this mean we are, She didn't finish the sentence, but he knew exactly what the words meant. Did this mean that they were in a relationship? The words felt foreign to his mind. Thinking for a moment, Todoroki answered, I suppose, but you don't have to think about it. Think about all of that right now. We agreed to take it one step at a time, right? Amari nodded her head slowly. Somehow calling them dating or her boyfriend didn't sound right at the moment. They had already gone through so much together. That simple term couldn't possibly describe everything that had happened between them. She took in the warmth of his palm between hers and suddenly wanted to try something, although she wasn't sure if her heart could take it. Squeezing his hand softly, her voice echoed out low and small, catching him completely off guard. Thanks for being with me, Shoto. At the sound of his first name, Todoroki completely stopped, now standing still in utter shock. He felt his cheeks start to burn and immediately let go of her hand. Because he wasn't able to control his left side fully yet, his flame started to burst to life in utter embarrassment and dismay. He wasn't expecting her to say something so out of the blue like that. It made his heart go crazy. Amari gasped at the reaction, turning away in embarrassment, hoping that he couldn't see her reddened expression as well. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. It's still too weird, right? Calming himself down, Todoroki placed a hand to his face. No, it's not that. I was just caught off guard. Sorry, I still can't control my flames yet. Are you hurt? He quickly grabbed her palm, but when he saw her unhurt, he relaxed. He needed to be careful not to accidentally burn her one of these days. No, I'm okay. You pulled away in time. Sorry. Not liking her apology, Todoroki tightened his hold on her hand. Maybe you should hold my other hand this time, just in case. Amari smirked at that, replying, So what, you can freeze me next time? This caused him to smirk as well, reaching down and wrapping his right hand around hers firmly. Sorry. I'll learn to control it. They started to walk away when his voice returned, low and smooth. I'll get used to it. You should keep calling me by my first name until I do. Amari blinked in surprise and turned to him only to find his eyes cast away. She could see a line of pink under his eyes. So it's okay? You didn't hate it? Nodding his head, Todoroki tightened his hold. That wasn't the problem. It was the opposite, actually. His words caused Amari to blush, silently happy that he didn't outright hate her action, although she would need to get used to him as well, or else her heart wouldn't be able to take it. Oh. Reaching the school, the two almost at the gates when Amari noticed a bunch of students outside the building. She looked down at her hand and Todoroki's and stopped. He seemed to notice her resistance? Never mind. Amari, what's wrong? Amari sighed heavily at his words, lowering her eyes. It's just, everyone's gonna know about us if we walk in like this. Narrowing his eyes in confusion, Todoroki answered, And what's wrong with that? Do you not want anyone to know about us? She felt his grip loosen and Amari gasped, shaking her head. No, it's not that. I'm just nervous about it, I guess. Everyone is probably gonna stare at us, and you're the most popular boy in school and everything, and I don't know. I guess it's just going to be really awkward and everything, and noticing her start to trail off, Todoroki stopped her words by lifting his hand up, showing her the proof of their relationship. Hey, it'll be alright. I'll be right there next to you this entire time. Let's do this together. He squeezed her hand in reassurance, and Amari sighed, giving in. Alright, I guess. Todoroki nodded his head, and they continued walking together through the courtyard. Together. Gotta reiterate that, together. Just as Amari had predicted, many students stopped and stared at the couple, whispering and gossiping about them being together. Amari felt just as embarrassed as she thought she would, but Todoroki's hand kept squeezing hers every couple of minutes, calming her down quickly. Soon they reached the classroom, and when they entered the area, everyone seemed to freeze, taking in the two of them together. Well, everyone except Bakugo, who was acting like he wasn't paying attention. They all looked between each other, wondering who would speak out about it first. Kirishima losing the battle. "Hey, Amari, are you guys together?" Casting her eyes away, Amari put a hand up to her neck in embarrassment. Yeah, I guess we are." The entire class stood in silence for a moment before jumping out of their seats, clapping their hands wildly. "Finally, I thought you two would never figure it out." Amari's eyes widened as Denki pulled out a small notebook before everyone started to take money out of their wallets. "Alright, who said after the sports festival? Dang it, I was so close." They then started placing money on the desk as Aoma groaned. "Amari, why couldn't you have figured it out before the festival? You made me lose the bet. I pushed you and everything." Letting go of Todoroki's hand, Amari stomped up to them in about anger. "So that's why Mina and Aoma were all over her about this." "Wait, you all created a bet about this?" She grabbed the notebook off the table as Deku ran up to her, trying to quell her anger. "I told them it wasn't a good idea, Amari-chan." Opening the notebook, Amari found a bunch of names and dates. Each of them trying to figure out when she was going to actually confess. They really made a bet about her relationship. Unbelievable. Throwing the book on the ground, she then turned to Katsuki. Was he in on this also? "Hey, Katsuki." I said that way too fast. "Hey, Katsuki, did you know about this and just didn't tell me?" But Bakugo only groaned, turning away from her. "There's no way in hell I would participate in something so stupid. Keep dreaming, brat." Well, at least he didn't know. That made her feel a tiny bit better, although not much. She felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to find that Todoroki picked up the book. Amari. Her shoulders fell immediately at that, already calming her down. Then she watched as he moved up to Denki, holding the notebook out for him to grab. "Here." Denki reached out and grabbed the object when it spontaneously caught on fire, burning the poor boy's hand and dropping the book. "Hey, you did that on purpose!" Shrugging his shoulders, Todoroki only turned away, now moving to his desk as well. "Sorry, I still can't control my left side very well." Amari and everyone both knew that it was no accident, though. He seemed he was equally as bothered by the bet as she was. This was reassuring to know. Just then, she remembered her mother's words and internally groaned. She guessed she would have to bring this up sometime. "Hey, so feel free to reject this, but my mom is set on having you over for dinner tonight." He narrowed his eyes in confusion at that. This was the first time Todoroki had heard of this. "Dinner?" Mari nodded back, already feeling mentally exhausted from just trying to think about it. "Yeah, I tried to turn her down, but for some reason, she was really pushy about it." Snapping out of her own thoughts, she then smiled while putting her hand up in defense. "But you really don't have to go if you're busy or anything. It's probably just going to be awkward anyways." She expected him to agree with her, to just say, "All right," like he always did. That was his usual response, after all. Todoroki didn't need to be in this mess, although what she got was something completely different. "I'll go." Blinking in surprise, Amari gasped. What? Is it really okay if you don't? It's really okay if you don't want to. I'll tell her that you're busy or something." But once again, Todoroki surprised her, answering back, "No, I want to. I want to meet your family. I want to learn more about you." His words made her cheeks turn pink again, not expecting him to agree to her mother's request, although she couldn't deny him that request now that he was so serious about it. "Okay, if you're sure." Just then, Aizawa walked in and halted their conversation. She silently wondered why he would be so enthusiastic about the idea. She guessed that settled in then. Todoroki was coming to dinner. Right after school ended, Amari and Todoroki walked together towards her house. Amari herself feeling like a nervous wreck, she silently hoped this wouldn't be an utter disaster. Turning to face him, she spoke. "All right, feel free to leave at any time, and try not to feel intimidated by Katsuki or my mom. You don't have to stay that long either if you get uncomfortable at all." Todoroki noticed her nervous demeanor, seeing her house in the distance. Hey, it will be okay. I'm doing this because I want to. You don't have to be so worried about it. Although Amari wasn't sure, now standing in her doorway. I know, I really appreciate it. Just promise me you'll tell me if it gets uncomfortable, okay? I will make it feel better. God, me and my dirty mind. He nodded his head to quell her anxiety as they saw Bakugo walking in front of them. Oh boy, this was going to be interesting. Releasing her hand from Todoroki, Amari smiled. Hey, Katsuki! But Bakugo didn't feel the same, now noticing that icy-hot bastard next to her. It was going to be one long night, that was for sure. Then, without answering, he just groaned and slammed the front door right in her face. Yeah, he was still pissed. Todoroki eyed this as Amari sighed. And we were doing so well. Looks like we are really back to square one now. Well, sorry about that. He just frowned at her response, already knowing why he was so upset. Bakugo was so sure that he was using Amari for his own selfish reasons. He knew it was coming from a place of love, but that didn't mean he had to be such a jerk about it. Suddenly the door sprang to life again, this time revealing her mother. I'm so sorry about that. Katsuki can be kind of an asshole, but I'm sure you already know that. Come in. She pushed the two kids inside before shutting the door behind her. You must be Amari's boyfriend. I'm Bakugo Mitsuki. I think so. Mitsuki? I think that's how it's said. It's nice to meet you. At the word boyfriend, Amari felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. Mom, I already told you, it's not like that yet. Although Todoroki didn't seem bothered, just bowing his head in respect to the woman. It's nice to meet you as well. I'm Todoroki Shoto. Thank you for letting me take care of your daughter. Amari blinked at his polite nature, but she supposed that did make sense, given he was from such a rich family and everything. At his last name, Mitsuki perked up. Todoroki, oh, I know you. You're Endeavor's son, right? I saw you during the sports festival. You really were impressive, I gotta say. Groaning internally, Amari put a hand up to her face. They were only a couple minutes in and their mom was already making him uncomfortable. Great. Todoroki didn't seem to show it, though, only answering plainly. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. Her mother smiled at his response, only turning around and yelling across the room. Bakugo Katsuki, you come out here and greet our guests right now and stop being so rude, will you? He seemed shaken by the change in attitude when Bakugo shouted back, No way! I already see that bastard way too damn much already. Just leave me alone, you old hag. Sighing in frustration, Mitsuki smiled softly in the two's direction. Give me just one moment. I'll be right back. Then they watched as Amari's mother stomped up the stairs, hearing the door to Bakugo's room slam open with a loud thud. Katsuki? Goddamn, what is wrong with me? Katsuki, I swear to God, you have 5 seconds before I drag your dead body down here for you. Todoroki listened to the interaction before speaking. Is it always like this? Amari just laughed silently at his question. Yeah, pretty much. Sometimes I think it's better that I lived away from my parents. I feel like I might have ended up like Katsuki otherwise. He couldn't help but shiver at the thought, not wanting to tell her that she kind of did act like them when she was angry. That would have been really scary. She laughed at his words, nodding her head. Yeah, I think so too. But to be honest, it's really weird that she was so determined to have you over. Usually my mom doesn't care what I do. Todoroki turned to her at that. What? Why? Looking down at the floor, Amari smiled sadly. It's always been like that. You just saw it. She treats me and Katsuki completely different. I could dye my hair 3 different colors and she wouldn't care. Perks of having a shortened lifespan, I guess. He took in her words, the pieces clicking into place. The reason why she let Amari do what she wanted was because of her weak condition. That was actually kind of depressing. Amari then clapped her hands together and continued. That's why it's so weird. I can even usually avoid my birthday, but this? She wouldn't take no for an answer. I wonder why that is. They were shaken out of their thoughts when Mitsuki came back, this time dragging a very unhappy Katsuki down with her. There, now we're all here. Sorry for the wait. Bakugo crossed his arms in annoyance as their mother hurried into the kitchen. Now the 3 chat Now you three chat while I get dinner ready. Okay. Once she was gone, the air around them had grown about 100 times thicker. Why had their mother let them be alone like this? It was only going to bring trouble. Bakugo and Todoroki just stared each other down in utter silence. The hatred radiating off the two of them. It was like she was in the middle of a battle zone. Just then their mother came back, completely disregarding the atmosphere. Oh no, I totally forgot to get a cake for dessert. Katsuki, do me a favor and take your sister to get one for me. Bakugo didn't seem happy about her idea, though. What? Oh, hell no. It's not my fault you forgot a damn cake. Go make Icy Hot get one if he wants it so bad. Their mother didn't seem to like his answer, though, already taking a challenging step forward. I'm not going to let our guest of honor do that. That's terrible manners. Don't make me count to 3. Katsuki grumbled in response as Amari spoke for him. She didn't like the idea of leaving Todoroki with her mom, either. But Mom, I don't want to leave Shoto alone. He doesn't know anyone here. Their mother smirked at her, calling him so informally, placing a hand on the poor boy's shoulder. You'll be alright. Todoroki is going to help me cook. Right? Although this was news to him, he didn't seem to mind. Maybe spending time with her brother could help them reconcile. Of course, I would be honored, Bakugo. Clapping with excitement, Mitsuki smiled, already shoving her children at the door like she did this morning. Good, it's settled. Katsuki, don't you dare leave your sister behind. Then she slammed the door in front of them, and Amari had an unpleasant feeling in her stomach. Her mother wasn't usually this forgetful. There was something off about this whole thing. She just didn't know what. Todoroki found himself standing next to Amari's mother silently, stirring the pot of soup next to him every couple of minutes. He never really had a family like this before, so it was hard to figure out what to say. Mitsuki hummed while chopping up the vegetables next to her. So, the fuck was that? So, Todoroki, how did you meet Amari? Thinking about his answer, he flashed back to the first time they had met. We met at the opening ceremony for UA. She called my eyes pretty. She laughed at his story, shaking her head. That sounds about right. This girl is always so scatterbrained. I honestly don't know where she gets it from. Living apart for so long, her traits have become rather different than the rest of our family. Throwing the vegetables into the pot, Todoroki wondered something. That's not true. She has your family's determination and passion. I've seen it. Mitsuki couldn't help but smile at this, moving away from the pot towards the table next to her. Todoroki, come sit down. I want to talk to you about something. He blinked in confusion before complying, watching her pull out a book of some kind. I assume she told you about her condition, right? Nodding his head, Amari's mother continued. Don't get me wrong. I'm really thankful for you, but I just want to know if you are with my daughter for the right reasons. Widening his eyes, Todoroki answered. What reasons would there be? Mitsuki's eyes fell then, crossing her hands in front of her. Amari has always been distant since she went to America. She used to be so open with her feelings, but now I find her trying to push everyone away for some reason. It worries me. Opening the book next to her, she turned it over to show Todoroki. There, in front of him, were pictures of a younger version of Amari, maybe kindergarten-aged. She had a goofy smile on her face, but Todoroki couldn't help but notice the tubes and wires hooked up to her. She also looked sickly pale and skinny, far more than she was now. Mitsuki spoke again, sorrowful this time. I'm gonna be honest with you, Todoroki. I never wanted her to become a hero or go to UA. I've always had to watch her go through so much, and after that USJ incident, it makes me want to pull her out even more. Turning the page, Todoroki's eyes caught a picture of Amari and her brother together, both wearing goofy grins while her mother continued. But what kind of mother would I be then? That girl... It's, as you said, she has so much determination for this. I can't take away her dream like that. Who knows when she could relapse and disappear from this world. I can't be selfish. He took in her words and quickly realized that her mother wasn't careless, like Amari had claimed. She just wanted to give her daughter everything while she still could. By her explanation, it seemed like she didn't know about the effects of the pills either, just that Amari was still sick somehow. The woman then locked her eyes with the boy, an intense air suddenly appearing. That is why I ask. If you are only with my daughter because you pity her or what to do some kind of charity work, then I'll ask you to step away. Amari needs a strong support system, and she won't confide in me. Then she needs someone else to trust. Closing the book in front of her, Mitsuki's eyes saddened. Can I trust you, Todoroki? A few moments of silence passed before he had his answer, leaning on his hands carefully. Your daughter is very special to me. Even though we grew closer because of her condition, that's not the reason I care for her. I can promise you right now I will never abandon her, regardless of what happens in the future. Taking it in his intestine, and oh my god, I can't be that tired already. Taking in his intensity, Mitsuki blinked in surprise before smiling softly. Amari really did find a keeper, huh? Thank goodness. I don't know why, but that makes me so relieved. She then wiped a tear from her eye before standing up enthusiastically. All right, now let's get dinner done before they get home, okay? Nodding his head, Todoroki joined her, now knowing the kind of person Mitsuki Bakugo really was. Amari was really lucky to have her as a mother. The air around Katsuki and Amari was certainly thick, to say the least. They ended up walking to the shop in complete and utter silence until pulling open the door and stepping inside. Seeing the rows of cakes in front of her, she couldn't help but gasp in joy, now running up to the case. Wow, these all look so good. What kind do you think we should get, Katsuki? Although Bakugo didn't seem interested, just shrugging his shoulders. I don't care. Just hurry up. The sooner we get this crap, the sooner I can go home. I don't even know what that damn woman was thinking. Amari's face fell at that, quickly choosing a simple strawberries and cream cake before sighing. Well, this was a better time than ever to try and talk to him. Hey, Katsuki, are you still mad? Raising an eyebrow, the boy scoffed. Of course I am. You even let that damn bastard into our house. I don't even know what you see in him. It's so obvious he's using you. She tapped her fingers on the glass then. It would be better if he was. Her words caught Bakugo off guard, now gaining his full attention on her. What the hell did you just say? You actually want him to use you? Shrugging her shoulders, Amari sighed. It would be easier at least, then he wouldn't have to get so attached. Katsuki had no idea what she was talking about, but he knew that he didn't like it. Why was she thinking so low of herself? Excuse me? Don't just let that bastard walk all over you like that. You are a Bakugo, and Bakugos don't take that kind of shit. You hear? His words made her strangely happy inside, hearing him call her a part of his family. Maybe they weren't completely back to the beginning. I have no idea why he would even want to be with me anyways. He deserves someone better. It would make more sense if he was using me. I don't mind getting used, if it can give me that one moment of happiness. Bakugo couldn't believe the words he was hearing. Was his sister always this down on herself? Had he never heard it? What? Had he never heard it before today? Hey, I don't know what kind of bullshit you are spewing, but that bastard isn't good enough for you. You hear me? Stop acting all depressed and shit. It's getting on my nerves already. He watched her eyes fall at that, running her hand across the glass. Why did she look so sad? What the hell was wrong with her today? Katsuki, can we stop fighting? I don't have to choose between you and him. Please, don't make me. I just don't want you to hate me again. At her words, his ears perked up, especially at the last part of her sentence. What the hell are you saying? I never hated you, dumbass. Mari blinked in surprise at that. He was nothing but cruel to her in the past. That wasn't hate? You didn't? Bakugo suddenly remembered the words Todoroki said back in the terrible hospital room. He hated to admit it, but the way she was talking, it seemed like maybe that bastard was right. Wait, did you think I hated you? Watching her eyes cast away, his sister put a nervous hand to her neck. Oh, no, of course not. That just seems stupid, right? Katsuki knew she was lying right away, now growing even more concerned. Maybe his sister was much more fragile than he originally thought. Watching her change the subject quickly, it was obvious she didn't want to talk about it. Watching the worker pack up the cake, Amari sighed. I also wanted to apologize for the sports festival. You spend all your time training me, and I still lost. I guess what you said was true. All I do is lose. I embarrassed you after all, right? He was about to yell at her, but the look on her face stopped him from doing so. She looked so sad and disappointed in herself. Was she really that beaten up about losing? She really was a bakugo then. Come on, stop it with that shit. Yeah, I'm pissed that you lied about the training, but that doesn't mean you have to be so depressed about it. So you lost, whatever. You just have to prove it next time, right? Amari thought about his words, feeling her chest grow a tiny bit lighter. Was he trying to cheer her up? She didn't know exactly, but Amari wanted to think that was the case. Just then the worker handed her the cake. She smiled at the gesture before turning away, already itching to get back to Todoroki. Who knows what her mother could be doing? Come on, we should head back. Bakugo agreed, moving towards the door when he noticed the sadness still in her eyes. She was still really upset about this. Groaning in frustration, Katsuki put a hand to her head before rubbing it aggressively, like she was a small child. Hey, stop that. I'm not mad at you anymore, so cut it out, okay? You didn't embarrass me, stupid, so don't even start with that. I'm sorry for ignoring you. Amari blinked in surprise at the sensation on her head. This was the first time Katsuki had ever shown her such affection and love. It was overwhelming, and she didn't know how to take it. What? But as soon as it was there, the hand disappeared, already turning for the door. Now hurry up, would you? Lightly touching her head with her hand, Amari couldn't help but smile, tears pricking her eyes around the edges. She didn't know why, but she felt loved at that moment. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. Thought I was gonna ruin all my electronic stuff because I knocked over my water. That was almost worse than the earthquake. When they got back home, everything proceeded as normal. Todoroki joined them for dinner, and when the cake was finally finished, he and Amari had offered to take care of the dishes together. Standing by the sink, Amari picked up one of the plates carefully. Hey, my mom didn't say anything weird to you, right? Recalling the conversation he had, Todoroki just shook his head. Not at all. In fact, I think your mom is really amazing. She didn't fully understand his words, but just went along with it. It seemed like she didn't say anything bad, so that was good enough for her. Todoroki spoke out next, grabbing her plate carefully. How was Bakugo? Did the two of you manage to talk everything out? Recalling the hand on her head, Amari smiled under her breath. Yeah, I think we're good. I can never tell with him, though. She seemed satisfied with her. He seemed satisfied with her answer as well, taking a good look around the space before speaking. I never really had this kind of thing. It's always just been me and my sister and brother. 'Cause he has two brothers and a sister, not two sisters. Me, my sister, and my brother. So I really enjoyed being here. I finally got to see what a real family was like. Amari's eyes saddened at this. She really hated to think of Todoroki's past and the pain that went with it. He always looked so sad when he talked about it. Shoto. Just then, he grabbed her hand, lifting it from the soapy water carefully. Being here made me realize something. I was always afraid of the fact this kind of thing. Afraid to face this kind of thing. But I think that I can face it if you are with me. Narrowing her eyes in confusion, he finished his sentence. Mari, will you come with me to visit my mother? Her eyes widened at his words, almost dropping the plate in her hands. He wanted her to meet with his mother. She was sure that memory was still incredibly painful for him. Are you sure? Todoroki thought for a moment before answering. Yes, I want to face this together with you. That is, if it's okay. Feeling the heat in his palm, Amari didn't even have to think about her answer. Of course I will. I'll always support you, Shoto. At her answer, Todoroki was filled with such relief and joy, lifting her hand up to meet his lips before kissing the surface lightly. Thank you. Amari blushed at the action, almost dropping the plate again, when Bakugo's voice echoed through the entire space. Oh God, you cannot do that in my house. Seriously, you have some self-control. Absolutely disgusting, I swear. They took in his words and couldn't help but smile at the display. At least Bakugo wasn't going to kill him this time. It was progress. Was it longer than normal? I couldn't tell. Everything's really long. Dyslexia's a bitch. Jesus, Toothless, are you good, Toothless? Alright. Season 2, Chapter 11. Todoroki and Amari had agreed to meet in front of the hospital at 5 o'clock sharp. Although, due to her nervousness and anxious demeanor, she ended up showing up a couple hours early, of course. She spent the time just pacing back and forth before sitting on a nearby bench. Why had she even agreed to this? Todoroki's mother would surely hate her, and she feared things would end up just like how they did with his father. She couldn't have both his parents hating her. Directing to no one particular, Amari put her hand out, practicing her greetings. Alright, it's okay. You can do this, Amari. You just have to go up to her and say, "Hello, it's nice to meet you. I'm Shoto's girlfriend." Almost immediately she groaned. No, that wasn't right. She wasn't ready to use that term. So she tried again. "Hello, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. My name is Bakugo Amari." Her hand fell again quickly after. His mom wasn't the Queen of England. There was no need to be that formal with her. She would just look stupid then. Somewhere in the middle of her practicing, Todoroki walked up the path, now seeing Amari waving her hand and shouting it at absolutely nothing. What was that girl even doing? He approached just in time to hear her throw up a couple of finger guns and wink. "Hey, it's your girl Amari. It's super great to finally meet you." Raising an eyebrow, Todoroki knew he had to make his presence known, but couldn't deny the amusement he felt, watching her repeatedly introduce herself to the air. He really shouldn't have been surprised by now, although he also had to admit that seeing her bounce around like that was really cute. Amari put an anxious hand up to her neck, thinking about what was the correct way of going about this when she caught Todoroki's eyes from a distance. They stared at each other for a moment. Amari now in complete and utter shock. How long had he been standing there watching her like a complete idiot? It was so embarrassing. She pretended to be cool about the whole thing, leaning back on the bench. "Oh, hey, Shoto. When did you get here?" Although, in her act, Amari completely missed the bench and tumbled to the ground roughly, and in the most ungraceful way possible. Todoroki sighed in exasperation, already putting the flowers he bought for his mother and kneeling down next to her. "Amari, what are you doing?" Extending his hand, she accepted it in embarrassment. "Nothing, really, just practicing." He lifted her off the ground carefully, noticing her attire now. She seemed to be wearing a black and white dress with a matching ruffle shirt underneath. "I had a feeling you would be here early. Did you even sleep last night?" Casting her eyes away, he knew he caught her. Maybe. Sorry, I was just too nervous about this whole thing. Your father rather hates me. I just don't want your mother to be the same." He picked up the flowers then, shaking his head in response. "I wish I could reassure you, but I haven't seen my mother since my father locked her away when I was a child. I'm not too sure of myself as well." Amari then quickly forgot about her own fears, now only thinking about Todoroki instead. This was way harder for him than it was for her. She couldn't think about herself right now. Placing her hand over his own, Amari smiled softly. "Looks like we're both going in blind then." He nodded his head at that and began making their way up the steps to the hospital quietly. Amari now focused on her hand in his. Being here was bringing back unpleasant memories herself. They reached the door in almost an instant, Todoroki now remaining absolutely still. His hand hovering over the handle silently. It was as if he was afraid of moving any further. "I've come here a couple of times, but I've never actually had the courage to open the door." Giving his hand a gentle squeeze, Amari placed her other hand on the door handle as well. "Hey, it will be okay, Shoto. I'll be with you the entire time. We promised we'd do this together, right?" Just her presence next to him meant so much, but he didn't know how to express that silently. He promised himself that he would do this. He had to. Giving himself a breath of courage, Todoroki threw open the door, only to reveal a silhouette he hadn't seen in years. Her white hair shone in the sun, as she looked out the window, not noticing his presence yet. She was here. She was really in front of him. Knowing he had to speak, Todoroki managed to squeak out one word. Mom. At his voice, the woman perked up before slowly turning in his direction. There were tears in her eyes as her voice shook. Shoto? Amari took a step back, but still remained close to his side, trying to give him space. She already knew that the minute he looked uncomfortable, she would pull him out of there. Taking another step inside, Todoroki showed the flowers to her. I'm sorry it took so long, Mom. These are for you. His mother took one look at the gift before pushing his arm aside and embracing him in a suffocating hug. Her voice shook underneath him, the tears pouring down her cheeks now. I'm so sorry, my baby. My Shoto. I missed you so much. Thank you for coming, even though I don't deserve it. Squeezing the life out of him, Todoroki just stood in absolute shock, not really knowing how to respond. The same familiar scent of his childhood started rushing back all at once, and all the pain that came with it. She must have noticed him tense up because his mother pulled away then, taking a step back awkwardly. I'm sorry. I got carried away. You must be uncomfortable, right? Uncomfortable wasn't the word that he would have used, but he surely did feel awkward. No, I'm really happy to see you as well. It's just been a while. This got her to smile, wiping another tear away. You really grow up to be such a wonderful young man. I watched you during the sports festival. I'm so proud of you, my son. At her words, Todoroki couldn't help but feel a hard ball of emotion rise up in his throat. Up until recently, the only thought he had of his mother were the ones of pain and sorrow. But after meeting Amari's parents, he realized that maybe that's not all there was. You didn't think my left side was unsightly? Her eyes widened at that, breaking eye contact with him. It was obvious she was ashamed. Shoto, my baby, of course not. Have you been thinking that all this time? Back then, I wasn't in my right mind. Those words, all this time, I wished I could have taken them back. Hearing her say that made him feel strange. All throughout his life, it had been so ingrained in his mind that his left side was evil and terrible, that he wanted to reject it as much as possible. Having her say this now, it was like the idea wasn't sinking in. His mother took a step closer then, carefully touching his face, his scar, and his trauma. She had done this to him. She made him hate himself. My Shoto, I love you so much. I want you to know that. Feeling her fingers on his skin, a sharp shiver ran up the boy's spine. He thought he would never hear that from her ever again. Mom, I forgive you. She remained silent at that, seeing the tears start to form again. After all these years and guilt, was her son finally forgiving her for her terrible crimes? It didn't seem real. She didn't deserve it. Reaching out a hand, she gently cupped his face before smiling through her own tears. I love you so much, Shoto. You deserve to move forward, to not hold anything back anymore, to go show the world that you are a Todoroki. As much as he wanted to stop it, Amari saw tears start to form in his eyes as well. He was really trying to hold everything back. Just then, his mother noticed Amari's head popping out behind him, now noticing her presence for the first time. Oh, hello. I'm sorry. I didn't notice you there. You had to see such an embarrassing display. Putting her hands up, Amari replied, Oh no, it's okay, really. Todoroki then turned to her, taking a step back so his mother could fully see the girl. Mom, I'd like you to meet someone. Moving forward, Amari nervously smiled before bowing in respect. Yes, hello. My name is Bakugo Amari. It's nice to meet you. His mom just eyed this curiously as Todoroki quelled her suspicion, grabbing her hand lightly. This seemed to get the message perfectly clear. This is someone very important to me. Watching the action, his mother couldn't help but smile back, seeing her son all grown up. I'm proud of you, Shoto. You found someone to cherish. As a mother, that makes me so happy. Amari let out a huge breath of relief, knowing his mother approved of her. In fact, his mother was completely different than his father was. She could almost see why Todoroki was the way he was. Taking a step forward, Amari spoke. I can see now where Shoto gets his heart and kindness from. You two are more alike than you would think. His mother took in her words and couldn't help but feel calmed by them. She could already tell that this girl saw her son's true essence. Well, I don't know about that, but I'm happy you seem to think so, dear. After that, they talked for a couple more hours, Amari carefully watching Todoroki to see how he was feeling, but only found a mask of emotion. She really hoped that he was okay. As they said their goodbyes, Todoroki walked out first when his mother called back to Amari softly. Bakugo? She turned around slightly, answering, Yes? His mother was silent for a moment before taking a step closer and carefully grasping her hand lightly. I just wanted to thank you. I think the reason Shoto has become more open is because of you. He's always needed someone to look after him, and I'm so happy he can finally confide in someone again. Amari stood still at her words. She was really giving her way too much credit than what she deserved. Oh no, I really haven't done anything. We haven't known each other for that long, and I couldn't possibly take responsibility for something like that. Then she glanced in the direction he went and smiled sadly, thinking about the messes he had to clean up because of her. Besides, I think I'm more of the one that confides in him. From her response, the woman could tell that there was something deeper going on with them, but didn't want to pry. She didn't have the right to. I don't know about that. I can already see that he values you greatly. That child still has many scars from the past, but I have a feeling you will be able to help him. Mari was about to deny her again when Todoroki came through the door confused as to why she wasn't behind him this entire time. Mari, what are you doing? We should head back before it gets dark. Nodding her head, the woman dropped the conversation, already knowing that it had affected the girl. Of course, you two should hurry along. It was very nice to meet you, Bakugo. She bowed back in response, recalling the words his mother just said. There was no way she was that special. She couldn't help him like that. Yes, it was very nice to meet you also. Then Todoroki grabbed Amari's hand and pulled her out the door silently before shutting it behind them. As they were walking down the steps, the girl sighed, echoing out a huge breath of relief. I was so nervous, but I think it went pretty well. At least she didn't hate me, right, Shoto? She laughed slightly at her own joke when she realized him not responding, and when she turned, Amari saw him complete in utter thought. He must not have heard her. Staring at his face, it was obvious that Todoroki was thinking about something serious. His face now turned down into a small frown. Maybe that meeting didn't go as well for him. Shoto? Todoroki then heard his name and snapped out of his thoughts, seeing her confused expression. Sorry, what is it? As they reached outside, Amari wanted to somehow make him forget about his lingering thoughts, to ease his mind, if only a little. Those childhood memories must have been coming back. That's when she noticed a large outdoor water fountain park, bursting to life with screaming children and energy. Why hadn't she noticed this coming in? All at once, her inner child began to scream in joy as Amari let go of Todoroki's hand, pointing in the area in excitement. Whoa! Why didn't I see this before? I love these things! He eyed her with confusion, and before the poor boy could think, she was already gone, racing towards the object and quickly running through one of the streams of water. She laughed joyfully, turning back to him and smiling. Come on in, the water's great. Looking down at his formal attire, Todoroki sighed. We aren't children. What are you even doing? You're going to get sick like this. But of course she wasn't listening, running across another stream of water happily. Oh, come on, old man, live a little. She used to see these kinds of things outside her window of the hospital every day, but this was the first time she'd ever got to experience them. Sometimes she would see Katsuki run through them as a child, but it wasn't the same feeling as right now. A couple children noticed her playful nature and started to chase her around. Amari happily complied, now dodging in between the spurts of water. Todoroki just stood there, watching the girl as the water bounced off her blonde hair. Her dress was now partway soaked, but she didn't seem to care in the slightest. Just then she smiled toward the kids, and he felt his heart hammer in his chest. She was acting childish and spastic in this moment, but Todoroki couldn't deny how much he liked her like this, how much his feelings for her continued to grow. That in this carefree moment she looked really beautiful to him. Her voice suddenly shook him out of his thoughts, calling back with her hand outstretched. Shoto, come here for a minute. I have to tell you something important. Todoroki grew confused, but complied, wondering if something was wrong. He surely hoped not. What's wrong? Reaching the very edge of the fountain, Amari just answered back quickly, Come here. I can't tell you over there. He took another step closer, then grasping her outstretched hand lightly. All right, I'm here. What's wrong? Just then, her face twisted into a sly smirk as she firmly grasped his hand, causing him to lose his footing and tumble face first into the water. Gotcha! The children around them began to laugh, now taking in his soaked clothes and hair. She was just messing with him. He should have known. That was a classic thing for her to do. He stood silent, and Amari suddenly felt bad. Maybe he really hated her action. He certainly didn't look like he was enjoying it. I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have done that. Come on, let's just get out and... But she was stopped when a huge burst of water flew right into her face, almost like it was thrown. Blinking back, she paused when Todoroki smiled back at her. You shouldn't let your guard down, Amari. She gasped back, now knowing that he was the one that drenched her and tried to throw a counterattack, although he was too quick. Hey, come on, let me get my revenge. The children laughed around her as the two of them began chasing each other around, throwing handfuls of water at a time towards each other until their entire bodies were soaked. Although neither of them seemed to mind, Todoroki couldn't deny the level of enjoyment he was feeling at that moment. He had never had much of a childhood, so doing this was kind of a new thing to him, giving him a new sense of emotions and feelings. Then, for the first time in a long time, he couldn't help but laugh, happiness filling his entire body. Was this what it felt like to completely let go? He kind of liked it. The sound of his laugh, Amari couldn't help but stop, staring at him through the spurts of liquid. She had never seen him like this before. He looked happy. He also seemed to notice her staring, calling her out on it. Amari, are you okay? Feeling the heat rise in her cheeks, her own words tumbled out before she could think about them. It was just like the day they had first met. Yeah, sorry, I thought you looked really beautiful right now. Both of their faces turned pink as she suddenly realized her words, throwing a handful of water onto him, hopefully erasing everything. Nothing. Sorry, forget that. Trying to run away from her own stupidity, she suddenly felt a pair of strong hands wrap around her waist, pulling her back. His voice returned then, tickling her ear low and smooth. I felt the same. A sharp shiver ran up her spine at his words. Did he just call her beautiful? No, that wasn't possible. There wasn't anything remotely beautiful about her. Although the moment was quickly interrupted when the kids called back to them, urging them to play around some more, so that's exactly what they did. Shit, I lost an L file. There it is. Okay. I don't know what fell, but fair. Once the sun had set, the two said goodbye to the group of children and hurried on their way, now both completely drenched from head to toe. Luckily, Todoroki was able to use his fireside to warm both of them up. Not wanting to go home just yet, they decided to walk to the spot he showed her during Amari's birthday dinner. The view still looking just as breathtaking as always. Stars lit the sky now, and Amari couldn't help but flop down on the soft grass, staring at the surface. That was so fun. I'm surprised you went along with it also, given how serious you are all the time. He looked down at her and followed her position, laying his body next to her in response. It wasn't that bad. I actually enjoyed it also. Amari couldn't help but smile at that. Todoroki, now thinking about his meeting with his mother, they supposed they were all right now, although it was hard to change ideals so quickly. All his life, he silently resented her for his scar, along with his father. He didn't know why, but all of those unwanted emotions were starting to come back. Amari, can I tell you something? Blinking in surprise, she answered, Of course, you can tell me anything. Todoroki thought for a moment before continuing. I told you that I wouldn't run away, but to be completely honest, I'm not fully confident in myself either. Amari narrowed her eyes in concern as he spoke. As a child, the only thing I've known from my parents was anger and hatred. I've seen my father strike my mother more times than I can count. Truly, I don't know what love is, or even how to express it. Hearing him talk about his childhood brought a heavy weight to her stomach. This poor boy already had to live through so much. In some ways, though, she was glad he was finally able to talk about it, though. She remained silent, just letting him talk freely, without interrupting. I'm so afraid of my father's blood inside me. I just don't want you to have to go through the same torment and suffering that my mother did. I don't want to become like him. I refuse to. Although a part of me understands that maybe I'm just being foolish. I already have his power. What else could be next? Bringing a hand up to touch his face, Todoroki ran his fingers across his scar. I've never had a family before, so how can I be sure of myself? How can I give you the support you deserve when I don't know how to give it? Seeing my mother made me realize that I don't want to repeat the past. Taking in his words, Mari couldn't be silent anymore. In one motion, she lifted herself off the grass and leaned over the boy, a hand now on either side of the boy, so they were closer. Can I say something also? Looking up at her, her face stood out against the starlit backdrop, framing her face evenly. Of course. Just then she smiled, and Todoroki felt his cheeks flush. You are not your father, and you never will be. Midoriya already told you, right? That power is yours, and yours alone. Lowering her eyes, Amari continued, her voice growing lower. You just being here next to me is all the support I need right now. I may not be confident in myself either, but I know that at least. She then trailed her fingers across his scar lightly. Regardless of what you think, you've already given me far more than I could have ever imagined, and I'll be forever grateful for that. You don't have to worry that you're not good enough, because I already know that you are. In fact, I'm so lucky that I met you, Shoto, and even if that means that the past has to repeat itself, I would still take it in a heartbeat, although I know that wouldn't be the case because you are strong and brave and smart and wonderful. That's not because of your father. That's because of your own power. Amari could be a bit of a dork and a child sometimes, but now was certainly not one of those times. Her words were so serious and smooth, her voice carrying through his entire body, making him feel light and calm. He didn't deserve to be called those things by her. He wasn't worthy of them. They stared at each other in silence for a moment as Todoroki couldn't help but focus on her red eyes, piercing through the night. He had never felt like this before. Never had he felt such an overwhelming emotion for one singular person before. Was this what love felt like? Feeling the desire to touch her, Todoroki found his arms reaching up on their own, wrapping them around her shoulders and pushing her body onto his roughly. Shoto? Amari collided with his chest, now firmly on top of him, and couldn't help but blush. His scent wrapped around her entire body, pulling her into his embrace, and forcing her to surrender to him. His arms tightened around her waist as he spoke in her ear, the breath tickling her and bringing a sharp shiver up to her spine. Stay like this, just for a moment. Mari complied, resting her head on his chest and hearing his heart hammer in his chest. It seemed to be going relatively fast for him. Was he nervous also? Okay. He stared up at the sky and thanked whoever had allowed him to have her in his life, somehow wanting to thank her as well. Thank you for coming with me today. Muttering against his chest, she replied, Of course. I'll always be here for you. Well, not always, but I'll be here for as long as I'm able to be. That last part of her sentence made him frown. She always seemed to do that. It was like she was trying to tell herself not to get too comfortable, that she couldn't get carried away. He hated that. He was going to call her out on it, but stopped when he felt the soft intake of her breath against his chest. Was she sleeping? He supposed that made sense, remembering what she had said before. She was too nervous to sleep last night, apparently with the visit to his mom. Tightening his hold around her waist, Todoroki leaned his head down and kissed the top of her head softly before whispering to himself words that he was always afraid to say. I think I love you. Although she couldn't hear his confession, Todoroki still felt a sense of embarrassment from them. Maybe one day he'll have the guts to say it to her for real. Amari flopped her eyes open at the sound of the phone ringing loudly in her pocket. What time was it? Her half-awake mind wondered if she took the object out. Noticing a trail of drew on Todoroki's shirt, Amari wiped it away before answering the call. Her voice still groggy. Hello? Who's this? A voice answered back, shaking her out of her sleepy nature and waking the girl up immediately. He sounded pissed. What the hell do you mean, who is this? It's your damn brother, and why do you sound like that? What the hell are you still doing out? I've been calling you over and over. Jumping up from his voice, Amari cursed, noticing Todoroki had fallen asleep as well. Crap. Oh, sorry, Katsuki. I guess time just got away from me. Although he didn't seem pleased. That's no goddamn excuse. Now you're gonna get your ass back here before I come over there myself. What are you even doing anyways? His loud voice had managed to shake Todoroki awake as well, rubbing his eyes slightly, his voice also groggy. Who was that? Bakugo heard his voice on the other line and couldn't help but allow his mind to wander to something unpleasant. Yep. Oh no, you are not out with that bastard. What are you two even doing? I swear, Amari. If you thought you were going to spend the night with him. At his accusation, Amari gasped, pulling the phone away so Todoroki couldn't hear. Shut up, Katsuki. It's not like that, okay? We weren't going to. Forget it. I'm coming home right now. Bakugo grunted in response as she hung up the phone. Then she put the object down and face-palmed in embarrassment. Oh god, he totally got the wrong idea. I'm so dead when I get home. Why did I have to fall asleep? Standing up from her spot, Amari then turned to Todoroki and smiled. I'm sorry. I have to go. Sorry for falling asleep. It seems like I inconvenienced you again. Todoroki stood up as well, brushing some of the grass off his body and replying. It's my fault as well. Come on. I'll bring you home and explain everything to Bakugo. Then they started to walk back towards her house together, Amari putting her hand up nervously. I don't think that's such a good idea. He might kill you. Although Todoroki didn't seem to be fazed in the slightest, just slipping his hand into hers silently. After a very stern talking to and a little bit of yelling, Bakugo seemed to understand what had happened, although he still wasn't happy about it. The next day came quicker than usual, and soon enough Amari was sitting back in class, watching Aizawa move towards the front. Alright, class, now that the sports festival is over, it's time to focus on your upcoming internships. Internships. There we go. He then placed a large stack of papers on the desk before pointing them out. Right, so, these are all the offers you received during the sports festival. That means the names and agencies on this list have recognized your talent and extended an invitation to intern with them. Those without offers will have a small list to choose from that will be provided after class. Make sure you choose carefully, as this is your future. The class cheered in excitement as the teacher began passing out the papers one by one, until he stopped at Amari. She took the paper out of his hand and smiled. This is so cool. I wonder who put out an offer. Humming slightly, Amari turned over the surface but immediately stopped when she read the first name on the list. That son of a bitch. Todoroki turned his head in confusion when he saw Amari grumble to herself, tearing the top sheet of the paper off and crumbling it in her hand in anger. That asshole. Throwing the object on the ground, the paper landed next to his feet. Picking it up slowly. What are you so suddenly upset about? But he quickly got his answer as he unraveled the paper and read the first offer on the paper. It was from his father, Endeavor. Why did my old man send an offer to you? Narrowing her eyes in anger, Amari replied, He probably wants to make me realize that I'm not good enough for you. Wants to show firsthand me how useless I am. Her words, they sounded like she had heard them before. This was starting to make Todoroki uneasy. Had his father attacked Amari without him knowing? How do you know that? Recalling his father's words, Amari answered nervously, I may have painted a target on my back at the sports festival. This didn't ease him in the slightest, though, already leaning forward in anxiety. What did that bastard do to her? What happened that he didn't know about? He needed answers. Amari, what happened? Amari couldn't help but laugh at that, trying to make light of the situation. Oh, not much. I may have kind of, threatened him. Threatened him? And she was still alive? How was that even possible? The terror in his eyes grew as he shot up out of his seat. What? Are you okay? Were you hurt? Grasping her arm aggressively, he searched for any type of cut or bruise that indicated he hurt her. If that bastard did anything to her, he wasn't sure what he'd do. But Amari just shrugged him off, trying to calm him down. Hey, I'm okay. He didn't do anything. We only talked. But he did piss me off, so I may have gone a little overboard. Narrowing her eyes in anger, she scoffed, trying to tell me that I should stay in my place and not to try and reach further than what I'm able to, saying that I'm not good enough for you. That would be a mark of shame on the Todoroki family. Talk about bullshit. Todoroki heard the words that his father threatened, and a hot, fiery rage grew in his stomach. How dare he try to hurt Amari like that? To drive her away, that disgusting and terrible man. He hated him. Touching the paper to his hand, she spoke again. It's obvious he wants to make a fool of me, to prove to me firsthand that exactly what he said was true. There is no way he did this because he recognized my talent. Todoroki listened to her and realized what she was saying was probably right. His father just wanted to play around with her. He was so vile, the boy couldn't stand it. His eyes saddened, knowing that he was responsible for the harassment. I'm sorry. You are going to reject his offer, though, right? But that's when Amari just smirked, crumbling the page in her hand all at once. Oh no, I'm accepting it. Too bad for him. I never run from a challenge. Todoroki's eyes widened at that, recalling all of the abuse and intense training his father gave to him throughout the years. He couldn't bear seeing her like that, having to experience that pain. No, he wouldn't allow it. Todoroki would put his foot down. Amari, no. You know he won't make it easier for you. He would purposely try to drive you out. Any normal, sane person would have taken his words to heart and rejected the offer, not wanting to put themselves through that kind of torture and pain. But unfortunately, Amari wasn't that kind of person. Instead, she only turned to him and smirked once more, the scent of a challenge being too good to turn down. Even never thought she would run away because of this. Then he was surely mistaken. Oh, I'm counting on it. Okay, I gotta stop here. I'm gonna try and get one more recording in, but it's probably only gonna be one chapter. Because why the hell not? Ow. Fucking bit my lip the other day and it's still bleeding and it hurts a lot. Yeah, okay. Check her out. Let me move the mouse over here so you can see who I'm talking about. Check her out. She's a good writer. I like her stuff. Of course, I'm only reading what you're reading right now. I've read one of her other things. I read a couple pages of one of her other things, but I'm not going to say because I don't know if I want to read it on YouTube yet. Maybe. I'm thinking about it. It's a good one. That's actually the only one that I think I'm actually going to read ahead of time before recording something. If I do end up recording it. I'm not sure yet. It's a good one. I can tell you that much. Check her out. She is a good writer. I like her stuff. This was part 11, because I forgot to say that in the beginning of the video. Yeah. I feel like I'm missing something, but I don't think I am. But, yeah, bye-bye.